Stranger Things has brought back that 80s nostalgia, so let's take a look at 1985 and compare it to life today. Music. Today, the likes of Ed Sheeran, Justin Bieber, The Weeknd, and Dua Lipa dominate the streaming charts. But who was the world listening to back in 1985? The most popular artists included Madonna, Wham, Foreigner, and Hall & Oates. One of the most popular songs released in 1985 was the classic "Everybody Wants to Rule the World" from Tears for Fears. As of 2022, Tears for Fears is still touring and releasing new music. So's Madonna. Audio streaming services such as Spotify and Apple Music may be how most listen to music now, but they weren't always around. It wasn't even until 1991 that the internet became publicly available, so people were listening to music on audio cassettes, vinyl, and CDs. Even the CD format was in its early days during 1985, with the first CD player being released only a few years prior. The first CD player released by Sony cost $1,000. That would basically be about $2,500 today. There were no wireless headphones, no iPods or MP3 players. A popular choice among those who wanted to take their music on the go was the Sony Walkman. It was a cassette-based audio player that changed how people listened to music at the time. As new technologies kept emerging, the cassette-based Walkman finally played its last tune and was discontinued in 2010. The Walkman was a big part of Chris Pratt's character Star-Lord in the Marvel film Guardians of the Galaxy. In present-day, physical music formats have become something for a more niche audience, like vinyl collectors and passionate music audiophiles. Movies and TV. 1985 was a very important year for film. The year saw the release of The Goonies, The Breakfast Club, and the very first Back to the Future film, which went on to spawn an entire franchise. Sylvester Stallone was one of the biggest stars of the day, appearing in 2 of the 3 highest-grossing films of the year, Rambo: First Blood Part 2 and Rocky IV. As for TV shows, among the highest-rated American television programs were sitcoms Family Ties, Cheers, Night Court, and The Golden Girls. There was also the news magazine broadcast 60 Minutes that is still on air today after more than 50 years. And The Golden Girls has seen a recent resurgence with a new generation thanks to streaming services. Just like how you couldn't stream music online, people couldn't stream their TV online in 1985 either. The days of Netflix, HBO Max, and Disney Plus were still somewhat far away. Viewers were watching cable television, and if there was a particular movie they wanted to watch, they got their hands on a VHS tape and put it in the VCR, since DVDs didn't hit the market until the 90s. A 20-inch color TV cost about $500, or over $1,000 when adjusted for inflation. Now you can get a 40-inch flat-screen smart TV for about the same price. The rise of modern streaming services has been considered a potential threat to the long-term viability of movie theaters. That wasn't a concern back in 1985, nor was it something that people could even imagine at the time. A ticket price to go see a movie in theaters hit an average price of $3.55. When adjusted for inflation, that's equivalent to $8.65 today. Nowadays, the price of admission will cost well over $10. That's not including popcorn and drinks. When it came to renting movies, the local video store was a weekly trip for teens. The Blockbuster video store chain opened their first outlet in Dallas, Texas towards the end of 1985. Expanding for 2 decades, the home movie and video game rental store was a major hit. The brand peaked in the early 2000s, and then, due to the rise of new formats and competitors like Netflix, Blockbuster would begin closing its doors for good. Toys and video games. Some of the greatest toys ever made were staples of 1985. Of course, who could forget the Cabbage Patch Kids? The dolls were riding a huge wave of popularity, and sales amounted to over $600 million. The Cabbage Patch dolls may have faded into the sunset, but this next toy never really went away. Based on the 80s animated show, the appeal of Transformers was getting a toy that was essentially 2-in-1, with the toy being able to transform from a car, plane, or helicopter into a robot. It seemed like every kid wanted their own Optimus Prime in 1985. The toys sold amazingly well back then, and they still sell now. With new Transformers movies coming soon, the brand will surely enjoy continued success. Due to the success of 1985's Back to the Future, skateboard sales skyrocketed. While everybody really wanted a hoverboard like Marty McFly, a regular skateboard would have to do. Other popular toy attractions in 1985 included the Pogo Ball, Pillow People, the Care Bears, and Rainbow Bright. While video games were still mostly played at the arcade, the evolution of home gaming took a great leap in 1985. While today we have gaming systems like the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, the Nintendo Entertainment System was released in North America in 1985. This was a precursor to the modern Nintendo Switch and supported games such as Soccer, Wrecking Crew, and the very first Super Mario Bros. Game. Please take a sec to like this video and hit that subscribe button. Now, back to 1985. Pop culture. Hair in the 80s was big, a true reflection of the times. Big bangs, big glasses, big feathers, big curls and perms. Lots of perms. 1985 was right smack dab in the middle of the 80s, a decade of some of the most memorable pop culture trends in history. Spandex and high-waisted jeans were two of the 80s trends. 1985, of course, was dominated by bright, vibrant neon colors, rubber bracelets, and acid-wash denim. Since then, the colors of our clothes have clearly become a lot more muted. We also don't share as much of an eagerness to style our hair into shapes that require a full can of hairspray to keep in place. It definitely seems this was more of an 80s thing. When it came to popular celebrities of the day, Princess Diana, Michael Jackson, Madonna, and Prince were huge in 1985. Today, artists like Beyoncé and Jay-Z, Lady Gaga, and reality TV celebs like the Kardashians rule the entertainment airwaves and social media sites. In 1985, basketball legend Michael Jordan wore the first Air Jordans in his first NBA dunk contest. They immediately caught fans' attentions, and the Nike basketball shoes became one of the most profitable sneakers ever made. Technology. iPhones, Androids, tablets, none of those things were around in 1985. When it comes to the early history of the mobile phone, look no further than the Vodafone VT1. It was the UK's first mobile phone, and while considered mobile, weighed a hefty 11 pounds. Then the world saw the Motorola 8000X. This device has often been credited as the first phone that was actually portable. The smartphones of today are almost completely different devices than the first mobile phones. High-quality cameras, video and audio recorders, internet browsers, calculators, music players. There is so much the modern smartphone can do. They've also become major entertainment devices, able to play games and movies on the go. When it came to computers in 1985, they were big. There were no sleek-looking iMacs around back then, and if you happened to have a computer at home, you couldn't connect to the internet. Why? Because it wasn't until the 90s that the World Wide Web launched into the public domain. But 1985 did see a company called Symbolics register the online domain symbolics.com. This made it the first .com domain in the world. 1985 saw chemist Akira Yoshino develop a prototype lithium-ion battery. Lithium-ion batteries are used in today's smartphones, electric cars, and more. Microsoft also released the first version of the Windows operating system, which continues to be a mainstay, as proven by the release of Windows 11 in the early 2020s. During a joint American-French expedition, side-scan sonar was used to locate the wreckage of the Titanic in the North Atlantic. The discovery was made more than 70 years after the Titanic collided with an iceberg and sank to the bottom of the ocean. Food trends. Food has always been a major part of our lifestyle and culture. In 1985, Domino's Pizza was one of the most popular fast food chains in America. The pizza restaurant chain is still going strong today. They recently partnered with Stranger Things to promote the 4th season of the hit Netflix series. Another popular chain was Dairy Queen. The DQ Blizzard was first introduced in 1985 and was a massive success. More than 175 million Blizzard treats were sold in its first year. If you have a nice cold Blizzard on a warm summer night even now, it's not hard to see why. While there was pizza delivery in 1985, without the internet, there were no food delivery apps. By the 2020s, food delivery apps have become widely used in North America. Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, Postmates, there are plenty to choose from. But in '85, if you wanted McDonald's, you had no choice but to go to McDonald's. Coca-Cola continues to dominate the soft drink market today, and that was no different in 1985. However, the Coca-Cola Company introduced a new product called New Coke that year, and it was definitely not received well. Many fans were not happy with New Coke replacing the beloved classic formula, so the public responded with boycotts and mass protests. Shortly after New Coke's introduction, the original formula made a triumphant return, now marketed as Coca-Cola Classic. Fast food giant McDonald's celebrated their 30th anniversary in 1985, with Ronald McDonald and the gang surely leading the celebration. School life. A classroom today looks a bit different from the classrooms of 1985. They often had bulky desks that had drawings and writing carved into their wooden tops. Students did not find them comfortable to sit in for long periods of time. But hey, the chairs and desks of today are not exactly comfortable either. Without the power of the internet and more advanced technology like smartboards, teachers relied heavily on chalkboards and overhead projectors. The lack of computers meant more books. Students couldn't just jump online and use Google or Wikipedia to look up something they wanted to know. One thing that was popular in a 1985 classroom that's not nearly as prominent anymore is the act of passing notes. But when students can do that electronically now by sending a text, there's no point in trying to pass a note across the class. However, the thrill of getting that note across the classroom to your BFF without the teacher intercepting it is now lost. Media. 1985 was pre-Twitter, pre-social media, and before people had access to the internet. So going online to get your news was not an option. Rather, people got their news through the radio, television, and, believe it or not, newspapers and magazines. Many print publications have now moved primarily to digital, but this was before the digital age. News and information were not as instantaneous or accessible, taking much longer to actually reach people. Now we have a whole world of information at our fingertips. News sites and Twitter give us near-instant updates as real-world events are actually happening. Pretty much everyone with a smartphone now has a high-quality camera in their pocket that can be used to record and document whatever is happening in front of them, and then shared with the rest of the world at the push of a button. In 1985, the absence of social media and cell phones meant people were interacting a lot more in person. Texting, Discord, and Zoom calls? What's that? Plus, with people not having a smartphone with them at all times, there was no need to post every moment of your life. There was no pressure to capture the perfect moment for the gram or your Snapchat story. If the technology did exist in 1985, how do you think former actor and U.S. President at the time, Ronald Reagan, would have embraced these social media platforms? Maybe he would have used Twitter to promote his love of jelly beans. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We really appreciate your support.